Welcome back!
Hello, tis us again.
It's us doing our fun Witch on the Holy Night shit.
Oh.
Sorcerers of Christmas.
Sorcerers of Christmas.
You know, since that joke didn't make it into the previous video,
Lord.
I wanted to say it again. It's the Sorcerers of Christmas.
Sorcerers of Christmas. Yo.
Even though this is, you know, it's not anywhere near December right now. What is that? No.
You know, by the time that
Anyways.
this comes up, at least.
Yeah, by this time this comes out, it'll be March something. So it'll not be anywhere near December.
Yes. Anyways.
Anyways, narrator mode. Break time was over. There stood Aoko Awazaki and Sojiro Suzuki. The first ideal conversation they had since first meeting had come to an end. Or idle conversation. Not that they had a choice in the matter. It was the jarring murmuring from around the corner that cut it short.
Oh, the what?
Nobody remembers my funeral. My mourners have long since perished. We were born wrong. Life is suffering. Somebody save me. That's not ominous at all.
Oh, love that.
The enemy was just around the corner, visible in the mirrors parallel to it. We don't have time for this. We need to keep our Huh?
Oh.
In contrast to Aoko's elegant blues, its lights were malicious red. Gondor shots? There was a momentary flash of light before she even extended her arm. But the instant she saw the enemy, her dormant feelings erupted once more. You're a real pain in the ass! She channeled all of her pent-up anger and shunted it into her right arm. The fog that filled the corridor was no magical weaving, but rather a barrier of raw energy. It was equivalent to setting blaze to 3 buckets of gasoline to create a wall of fire, in the hopes it would stop an arrow in flight. If the puppet had attacked with its arm, it could have pierced such a wall easily, but because it had loose curves with no definite form, the wall of energy repelled the attack. While it was a huge waste of magical energy, it was the only means Aoko had to protect herself in that very moment. Unfortunately, its protection was reserved to Aoko alone.
No, Sojiro.
Sojiro held his hand to his mouth. While the curse had been weakened to the point where Aoko could no longer feel it, it had plenty of effect on Sojiro, who was not a mage. As if it understood this fact, the puppet turned its gaze from Aoko to the unanticipated human behind her. It's so weird. The doll, like the way its legs are, it seems like the ball joints on the legs are like crimped outward, and I don't like it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It makes me uncomfy. Everything else looks, you know, mostly fine as a ball jointed doll, but like the hips and the legs are, I don't like it. This has nothing to do with him. Enraged, she swung her arm forward once again. The blue light formed a wall to block the Gondor for a scant few seconds. It was enough of an opening to exploit. Just as Aoko was forming the wall, the puppet pointed its right arm at her face and...
Well, this apparently does have something to do with me. Time to run.
Before the rocket of death could be fired, Sojiro scooped her up into his arm.
Oopsie daisy.
How he mustered the strength to do so was a mystery, but he turned his back on the puppet and took off running. He was a nimble sprinter, resembling a deer leaping across obstacles. Sojiro rounded 2 more corners, ignoring whatever complaints Aoko was making, and eventually stopped in the middle of the 2nd floor. He set her down.
Alright. I bought us enough time to rest a bit.
Sojiro's shoulders heaved as he caught his breath. As light as she was, running while carrying someone else would make anyone winded. She looked up at him in incomprehension. You had that much stamina all along? Then why? It made no sense to her. If he had that stamina to pick her up and run, surely he could have stopped. He could have stood up and escaped when he had been downed earlier.
Oh, that time I had given up.
His words were unfiltered as ever. Though, in this moment, fighting for their lives, he lacked some of his usual absent-mindedness. But why?
Who knows? I've forgotten already.
Though he may have turned away because he regretted saying it aloud, his words spoke volumes. For some reason, it pained Aoko to see him like that. Because he's so cute.
Also, Aozaki, I'm suddenly feeling really ill. Was it that red light?
Yes, a form of magecraft. They're called Gondor shots, a curse that originated in Scandinavia. It has no effect on someone with mage circuits like myself, but you're defenseless against it.
No effect, huh? Alright.
I guess it depends on how strong the magic circuits are.
I guess so. I see. It don't work on you. Then my arm is the only thing. Then that arm is the only thing that poses a threat.
Aoko had no idea why he was relieved, but she gritted her teeth and fought down the urge to snap at him. There was no use in yelling at a time like this. And also, I can't yell right now, so I'd prefer if they didn't. Above all, she felt that it would have been...
Oh, fudge.
She did something. Hey, it wouldn't be a stream with you if we didn't have to go back at least once.
Fair enough. Alright.
Rewind just a little bit. There you go.
There we go.
Above all, she felt that it would have been petty in the extreme to voice her annoyance right now. We got there. You're right. The extending arm is the only thing I have to worry about, so it's not that tough at all. This time, it was not false bravado. Such an enemy would normally be a breeze for Aoko Aozaki. But her shameful negligence had led to the disruption of her magical circuits, making her even less formidable than her enemy. At this point, Aoko had no way of attacking. The only option left to her was to wait for it to extend all of its magical energy, but its perpetual curse mechanism made that a non-starter. This game of tag would not end until one of them was dead. She realized that she was in the same position she had cornered Sojiro in earlier. She glanced at her right arm. She could not imagine how she had gotten into such a mess with her magical energy at more than half of its capacity. This had to be karma for having enjoyed toying with Sojiro earlier. Maybe there's a god after all. She grumbled under her breath as she shifted her focus. She had the fuel for the fire, but not the igniter. And that killing machine would chase her until the end of time if need be. What she could do next was blindingly clear. She had to get back to normal.
Aozaki?
Sorry, I was thinking. Maybe that could. Okay, Suzuki, I've got it. You see that side passage over there?
Huh?
Aoko pointed, but he could see nothing but the walls of the corridor. For one thing, the floor had nothing but left turns, and Aoko was pointing to the right. At the center of the second floor is a stairway down to the first floor, which I destroyed earlier so you can use it. But there's another path that leads to the right, like this place is taunting you by design. It's a secret shortcut that only the hardcore fans know about. If you search carefully, you can find a way to the stairs down to the first floor. Now do as I say and go without me. Aoko turned her back to Sojiro and started walking. Walking in the opposite direction of the escape route and down the long corridor towards the puppet in pursuit. That thing will kill anything it sees, so I have to destroy it here and now. It's okay for two mages to fight each other, but dragging normal people into the conflict is strictly forbidden. I'm the target, so this is the best outcome for everyone, don't you think? If Aoko won, the puppet would be destroyed. If Aoko lost, its objective would be completed and it would shut down. Either way, them going their separate ways would mean Sojiro survived. This is what Aoko meant. No, she explained it as if the events were happening to two totally different people. If you're lucky enough, you'll make it back to the gate in one piece. So, see you tomorrow then. Even Sojiro could tell she was just trying to act tough. But she had already disappeared around the corner by the time he thought to stop her. Is Sojiro gonna activate some circuits? Is he gonna become magical? Well then. Mentally, Aoko bemoaned the disaster she was in. The quality of this puppet was on a completely different level compared to the one from the park 2 days ago. In incanting perpetual motion machine was a rarity in and of itself, but this puppet was also equipped for battle with its extending arms and Gondor projecting crystalline eyes. It's a lot of words.
Fair enough. So it was shooting those from its eyes?
I guess.
Lens flare meme? Lens flare eyes?
She's got a fucking lens flare in the eyeball. The eyes are just the glowing glasses meme.
Oh my god.
Just the anime glowing glasses. It was a first-class product that, if put on the market, would sell for hundreds of millions of yen. Although, that was only when factoring in its value as an antique. For the purpose of combat, it would have been made more sense to mobilize a significantly less expensive familiar. To use such a precious commodity as a tool for murder marketed this puppet's master as a completely different breed of crazy from the enemies she had faced up until now. Oh, cool. There's no English version.
Oh, great.
So I'm just gonna read it. Okay, it's fine. Vivo in somno, solitari putresco in inferis, hic dis meus obitus dies, et meus nativos dies te obem. Sure,
let's go with that.
That's probably what that says. I didn't take Latin. Here it comes. A sound of cackling music box. The sound of a crackling. It's not cackling. Crackling music box filled the air. The automata, animated by its own curses, approached. The corridor measured approximately 30 feet in length. Alco lay in wait around a corner further down the hall, anticipating the puppet's appearance. This was not to buy Sojiro time to escape. Far from it. Alco had concluded that she couldn't make a break for it under the current circumstances. Even if she did try to escape, and by some miracle made it out of the House of Mirrors, that was as far as she would go. Outside, with no cover, Alco would quickly be overtaken and skewed from behind. As long as her magecraft was disabled, escape was impossible. I just had a thought.
Yeah?
What if Sojiro has a mouth on his neck? I know that's not it, probably. But I just had a thought if that was under... I keep thinking about what's underneath the bandages, and that's like the only thought I have when we're playing this. Because until I know, it's just going to be the only thing in my brain.
Alright, fair enough.
Because I want to know. Instead, she chooses to force the enemy back. Her situation was not the most favorable, but neither was the puppet's. Though the narrow hall gave Alco no place to run, it in turn prevented the puppet from reaching full speed. That was the weak point of this machine. Machine, turn back now.
You are crossing the will of God.
You insignificant fuck. I am Baba's special boy. More, ultra kill memes. That's what we're here for.
Of course.
Automata of its era had a tendency to struggle with minute changes in speed. Why did she say set, but it also says connecting?
What? Good question.
Okay. Set. She flowed energy into her shortened circuits. Her blood flow and magical energy supply were unstable. It would be difficult to construct a formula in this state. All she could do was harden her right arm by imbuing it with as much energy as she could. Doing so turned her arm into an improvised weapon, like a hammer or bat. Assuming she could manage to get into close combat range, this was the best she could do. All she needed now was a plan of attack. The question wasn't what weapon to use, but how to use the weapon she had. The simplest way would be to use the mirror's reflections to hide, and then rush the puppet from its blind spot. Except for one major problem. Didn't have a sense of sight in the first place.
So how was it chasing them? Was it just sensing their magical energy?
It's probably just sensing their magical energy. Which is why I believe it hasn't really gone towards Sojuro.
Oh, true. Fair enough.
Because her magical circuits are far stronger than his. Because isn't it that everyone has magical circuits?
It's not that everyone has magical circuits. It's just that people who don't have magical circuits still have souls and therefore magical energy.
Okay. So he just has a soul, to our knowledge.
What does that mean?
He might have magical circuits and we don't know.
Fair enough.
To be fair, I mean, you saw Shiro. He unlocked more circuits.
Fair.
In that fight. So, in that one fight. So, what if Sojuro unlocks all of his circuits?
Fair enough.
In the name of helping his friendo that doesn't want to be his friend. Anyways, the puppet's view on the world around it did not stem from visual feedback, but from mapping the topography of its surroundings. So it's a bat.
Yeah, it's a bat. Okay.
It's a bat. Okay. It's creepy enough, I suppose.
Yeah.
Bats are kind of cute, but like the spooky bats.
It's a bat's echolocation. Yeah.
Yeah. In theory, it was the same as bat's echolocation. The environment could be measured based on the emission and return of high-frequency sound waves. So it's just a bat.
It's just a bat.
It is a ball-jointed doll bat.
I love that.
That's a lot of things that are being put together that don't really need to be put together. Thank you, Type Moon. Very cool. Those chants served as sensor pulses. As far as the puppet was concerned, the mirrors were no better than transparent panels, making even the thought of an ambush laughable. The closer it gets, the more it's able to sense me. I'd really rather fight it at a distance, but if it's shooting Gander, it probably got at least a fin shot up its sleeve too. Like Flynn Rider? Just gonna shoot a whole ass man? Gander was Scandinavian in origin, and considering its simplicity, it is simplicity, right?
Yes.
That's what that says? Okay. It's simply highly versatile. It was most effective at impairing a target's health by pointing a finger. And the Gondor shots are what Rin does, right?
Yes.
Okay. As a single-action magecraft, it was limited to only causing illness, but but there was a secret technique said to be the greatest mastery of the Gondor shot. The fin shot. It could do more than cause simple illness. It was a deadly curse that could stop the heart. The wound on her back set her nerves on fire. An unarmed girl and a deadly automaton. It was clear that she was the one destined for death. She considered her slim chances of survival when a vision sent chills down her spine.
Hello there.
Hi. Quietly, using everything she could to clamp down on the feeling, Alco faced her all too familiar illusion. She clenched her teeth to keep them from making a deafening clatter. But there, the sensation of fingers crawling up her neck, behind her, the specter stared and laughed. This alone made Alco want to bolt. On top of it all, when Alco tried to mentally stimulate the coming fight, she estimated a 2 in 10 chance of dying in the first 5 seconds.
Oh.
20% chance of dying.
In the first 5 seconds.
20%. At times, her predictions were harsher than reality. If Alco fought the puppet 10 times, she would die twice. She could not stop herself from visualizing her own corpse. She imagined herself collapsing, crumbling under the puppet's curse. Her eyeballs swollen like a blowfish, blood and other fluids oozing from every bodily orifice. 1 in 5, 1 in 5, 1 in 5. A 1 in 10 chance of death was bad enough, but 1 in 5? It drove her crazy. But Alco forced down her heart as it tried to escape from her mouth. Taking in a deep breath, she peered at her own reflection. She thought back to that white night half a year ago. This, she decided, was nothing compared to that. 6 months ago, at the Kuanji estate, the Hound of White Roses, the Wandersnatch that appeared from within the thick fog, had killed Alco 100 times out of 10. Why is there no English version? Why do they hate me like this? You were giving me English versions and now you hate me. What did I do? Mea anima immortalis autem mea futara necata sunt manes sum animam definiri ambigum est. Every time I finish that, by the way, I just give a thumbs up. No one can see it, but I just need everyone to know that as soon as I finish it, I give myself a thumbs up as if I did a good job.
Great, love that. Doing your best.
Curse. I'm really trying, I promise. Listen, I took barely a semester of German and then 3 years of Spanish. I barely passed Spanish. The only reason I took Spanish was so that way I could get the little fun sticker that they put on your graduation certificate.
Ah, great. Love that. Love the stickers.
The fun sticker. I wanted to feel special. A dark curse shattered Alco's daydream. It was only 30 feet away. the puppet rounded the corner. Either side stood in the shadows, their forms indistinct. Indistinct. Oh, the puppet gave no warning. Without preamble, it swiftly fired a Gondor barrage. Just as Alco planned, the curse fizzled out as they hit her mist-like barrier of magical energy. The projection would only last a few seconds, giving her just enough time to... Oh. Come on! Its stretchable spear sprang towards Alco's face. Bingo! It was his name-o.
Oh my god.
The lethal weapon grazed her cheek. All her experience analyzing puppet attack patterns gave her the
wherewithal, I'm guessing?
Wherewithal to evade the attack by her hair's breadth. What?
Breadth.
What?
By a hair's breadth.
Okay. I didn't know that hairs had breaths. You know, it's fine. It's all good. Sometimes they use very fancy words that I'm sure to some people are not fancy. And I hate them.
I spend a lot of time looking at synonyms in order to write stuff, so...
That's super fair.
So, you know.
I do not. That is phenomenal for you. I'm probably going to have to do that in my next semester.
Absolutely fair.
I have to write a lot of essays. That's basically it, because it's an English class. But it'll be great. It'll be good. It's great. Anyways.
Yes.
Just by a hairline fracture didn't miss her, basically. It was one thing if a puppeteer were pulling the strings, but autonomous dolls have their limitations. Good thing fucking Mario isn't even born yet. Alco had bet everything on this killing machine, following a predefined template. The puppet would use a given attack for a given range, and she could adjust her tactics to that. Where's Sojiro? We know that he's gonna jump in. Where is he?
Wherefore art thou?
Waiting. Wherefore out, my sweet baby boy. Now's my chance. Before its arm had a chance to fully retract, she charged the puppet. It was a risky gamble, but her overall chances were slim to begin with. The scales tipped in her favor. If her if her predictions were correct, there were two ways she would die. One was from a fin shot fired at that range. And the other was if the puppet attack pattern was beyond her ability to foresee. Instantaneous mass transfer, otherwise known as mass displacement. Immediately after Alco dodged the puppet's arm, something smashed into her abdomen.
Oh no.
That's a good one, Oh! The head-on collision from its shoulder felt like a rocket. But where had the ability to propel itself come from? Puppets like this were not built to have the ability to jet around like that. Doing everything in her power to stay conscious in spite of the pain, Alco could just make out what had happened. It wasn't propelled, it was pulled! Yes, the puppet's arm had not returned to its body. It was lodged into the wall and reeled itself in from the other direction.
Ooh.
Interesting. It can do that? Swallowing her surprise, she hastily pulled herself back up. Her abdomen, specifically her diaphragm, had been dealt a significant blow. The attack left her disoriented. This is a lot of words.
Yes.
Thankfully, the puppet was surprisingly lightweight. Her bones and organs were intact, and she had sustained no life-threatening damage. She was having a hard time breathing, however. She was shaken, though she managed to not be stirred to keep her calm. Anyways, listen, in another 2 seconds, she'd be back on her feet. No, that was 2 seconds too long. She told herself to calm down, that she was already calm. She'd only briefly lost her bearing. She was fine. She could recover her breath and her vision later on, if only her body would move. More Latin! Intellectius non necessitaris est, pius quiscat o nostra essentia hablante fut gummy. It's a fruit gummy. She just wants a fruit gummy, I get it.
Oh my god.
Ratio fixiat tantum est dolores. Nitium cerebrum fuit.
Good job.
Thank you. Above her, Alco could hear the warped noise of a powerful force. Come on, legs! Move! We've got to get to where? She could once more feel the touch of death. Oh, there is English versions. Great. Grant us salvation. Grant us salvation. Grant us salvation. The puppet was so close that Alco could reach out and touch it. That also meant that it could reach out and kill Alco. I need to get to my right arm into its blind spot. By intuition alone, Alco rolled over to the puppet's right flank. Its arm was still embedded within the wall. From here, it could not attack. She had made the right decision, and her dizziness faded. Cast off the righteousness, lay piety to rest. We beasts are meant to consume each other. Life is but a decoration. Throw away your intellect. Pain powers the mind. Alco pulled herself back up. It was her turn. What? Oh, hi. It was only an instant. Within this labyrinth of mirrors, she saw an image of herself. We die.
Oh. Okay.
Nice. Super great.
Oh.
A blinding, brilliant light flashed. Lacerations appeared across the walls. At the last moment, Alco managed to thicken the magical energy running through her veins into a primitive form of magecraft resistance. It just barely saved her life from what must have been the puppet's ace in the hole.
Did it just blow up?
I think it just blowed up. I said blowed up. I meant
Blew up.
It's fine. It's 2:30 in the morning. It's fine. Why you? The puppet bore a striking resemblance to Alco. I think we've been saying that the entire time. That it looked creepily like her.
Yes.
Because that's okay. Who the fuck is making these to make them look like Alco? That's so creepy. This powerful curse was not satisfied with stopping Alco's heart, but destroying her entire being. Alco did not even have the time to be shocked. This was her chance to counterattack. The puppet's balance was unsteady, its right arm still embedded in the wall. I didn't like that. Alco prepared to give its defenseless body a strong kick, but her knees buckled and she collapsed into a heap on the floor. In slumber I live, in dirt I rot alone. Today is the day I died and was born. I come to you. A sudden nausea and lightheadedness overcame Alco. Her body temperature began to rapidly lower. This whole time, he was spreading its curses the whole time. She noticed too late. The puppet's curses circled the hall. The cursed chant that the puppet used as a source of power doubled as a defense mechanism, crippling those who drew near with illness. She bore the full brunt the entire time she was in close proximity to it. Although Alco had magic circuits, she was succumbing just as Sojiro had. Languidly, she forced her deteriorating body to jump back. I'm not done yet! With all the energy she could muster, she forced her way past the exhaustion caused by the curse. However, Alco's body pressure took a steep nosedive, not from the curse-induced anemia.
Anemia?
Damn. But from what appeared in front of her. They stood in perfect harmony. In front of Alco was the automata that shared her face, its left arm held out like an arrow. The deadly weapon shot forward and honed in on her heart. Then, a moment before it made contact,
Watch out!
the moment she heard that fearless voice, completely out of place in this storm of violence, Alco's body was pulled forcefully to one side. Once again, the extending arm cut through the empty air. While Puppet quickly retracted its left arm, Sojiro took the brief opportunity to take Alco by the hand and flee at full speed. Sojiro ran through the corridor as fast as he could, only stopping when he had put enough distance between them and the puppet.
I was thinking, and
Though he had saved her, she looked angry rather than grateful. This did not keep Sojiro from saying his piece.
tomorrow's gonna be a real busy day for me, so
In other words, let's finish this today. A rather awkward proposal. Aoko remained silent. She was also rather angry. Not that she could not figure out what made him tick, nor because he'd returned after escaping. Not even because he was spouting his typical airheaded lines. It was, she supposed, that instant. The fact that when he grabbed her hand, her mind had gone completely blank. Aoko found it unforgivable. Which beckoned the response. Are you insane? In the heat of the moment, she blurted it out before she could stop herself. Or maybe you've got a death wish? Don't you realize that either of us could kill you with a snap of a finger? At the very least, I don't owe you a damn thing. Saving my life doesn't change a thing between us. Sojiro nodded, curly unperturbed.
don't worry, Aozaki. If tonight taught me anything, it's that you're more ruthless than that.
She found herself slightly offended.
But I think you need to get one thing straight. That thing ain't just trying to kill you. I think it's trying to kill me as well.
She was having none of it. Her eyes shot daggers his way.
And before you chew me out, you need to know something. Do you remember the first floor entrance at the end of that long corridor? Well, it's blocked. I tried my best to find a way out, but no luck. There was no chance but to turn right back. There was no choice but to turn right back.
Ako's eyes widened, ever so slightly in amazement. Not out of shock, but rather admiration that her enemy would go to such lengths.
And besides, it was hostile to me too earlier. I could tell by how it was glaring at me. Well, it happened so fast I couldn't really get a good look at it, but it was real unsettling. You should be careful. That thing, she sure has a terrifying face.
Gee, thanks.
Hey, you bet. I mean, I can't pretend that like this ain't happening to me. Whichever of you wins, I'm a dead man either way, right?
You can't argue with that. If it's willing to go as far as to seal up the entrance, then it'd probably kill any witness as well. At least that's what I'd do.
Right? And I don't want her to be the one who kills me.
Wait. What? His words were... what does that say?
Decisive?
Decisive. His words were decisive. As Aoko looked up at him, she could swear he was trying to encourage her. It was then that she realized. Sojiro was looking even worse than before. Hey, are you okay?
Well, I'm better than if I'd drunk an entire bottle of soy sauce.
He tried to make light of the situation, but his forehead was clearly drenched in sweat. Right, it's because he was close to the puppet just now. How could he possibly be able to withstand a curse that made even Aoko nauseous? It's because he's magic. She bit her lip, annoyed at herself for not noticing this earlier. Sojiro was such an airhead that she hadn't even paused to consider his plight. Why didn't you consider trying to hide down in the basement? That would have been the safest bet, wouldn't it? Yeah, but it's harder to escape a basement.
True. Fair, I guess.
I mean, think about it. At least if you were on a second floor, you could attempt to break through the floor to get back to the first floor exit. However,
True.
if you're in a basement, you still have to go up either way.
Right.
So, plus basements are spooky.
Spoop.
Spoop. She really could not understand him at all.
You should really take your own advice sometimes, Elzaki. But, hey, there's no time to be chatting. She could catch up in any moment.
He turned to look down the corridor. The crackling sounds of a music box could be heard creeping forth from the darkness.
I was thinking about this while I was on the first floor earlier. If it kills you, I'm next. That's why we should deal with it first.
What are you getting at? She asked a question to which she already knew the answer. She did it to put him to the test. If he wavered even a little bit, she would have to kill him where he stood.
My proposal is, if I agreed to help you kill that thing, will you let me go?
I thought I made it clear that helping me wasn't going to change my mind. And besides, what do you think you're going to do to it anyways?
Oh, that's your end of the bargain, Ozaki. This is your area of expertise, right?
The commander who had the overall picture was responsible for delegating roles to their teammates. It was futile to depend on someone who was unable to grasp the situation or evaluate the enemy's strength. Sojiro was proud to share that he knew this. There's a lot of angry ...
She is seething right now. Absolutely mauling.
Absolutely. She's like, oh my god, he's so stupid. Oh my god, I would love to just kill him right now, but I'm too tired and I've run out of shots basically at this point. So we're just gonna suffer. That's the vibe. We're just gonna suffer until this thing dies. Or we die first. Whichever one comes first. He spoke the truth. Aoko was the only one who knew both Sojiro and the automata. That was why he pointed out this following her orders to the best of his ability was the only thing he could do. 'Cause he's a good boy. We should let him go. I know that we don't get to pick decisions, but we should let him go because he's adorable and he just, yep, We shouldn't kill him. It's illegal. He's just a new boy from the mountains. He's just doing his best. It may have seemed as though Sojiro had surrendered his capacity for self-thought, but in fact, in accepting that he was helpless, he was in fact giving Aoko his complete trust. Fine then. So you do exactly what I tell you to do?
I will. And just so you know, I'm not doing this out of sense of obligation or anything. It's just obvious that neither of us had a chance or on our own. This ain't goodwill or kindness. It's a transaction.
His eyes sparkled as if this was bartering in the truest form. Oh my god. This child must have learned that from Tobimaru, Aoko thought. Though she refused to let him see it, underneath she cracked a smile. Sure, he had gotten the best of her just now, but there were times when defeat was not the worst outcome in the world. Honest pay for honest work. Makes sense. And I hate to say it, but she relaxed her shoulders and sighed. Her face cracked into a wicked smile, as if her fears had suddenly washed away. Your plan is just my style. Aoko repaid Sojiro's trust in equal measure. I didn't want the aggressive crackling of my bag of chocolate to be on my mic, so I've just been holding it awkwardly.
I see.
Okay, I put it away now. I just wanted a chocolate. Just so you know, this is going. Nope, that is the narrator voice. That is not her voice. Just so you know, this is going to be pretty tough for you. Aoko warned Sojiro, moving as fast as she could without her footfalls causing a din of noise. Sojiro remained near the center of the spiral maze on the second floor. I'll let you in on a secret. I have another trap up my sleeve. I think I might have gone overboard with this one, but when you didn't show up on time, I just couldn't help myself.
A trap? For me?
Sojiro tilted his head like a squirrel as Aoko freely discussed the final ace up her sleeve. I engraved an ignition formula into the support pillars in the basement. If I ignite the center pillar, it will start a chain reaction that will ignite the rest. I mean, before that thing started jamming me, so if I infuse it with a bit of magical energy, it'll boom. It'll go boom. Sojiro was a little unsettled by how unclear that last bit was.
Aozaki, could you, clarify? I want to know how much you were going to blow me up. Please be honest.
Oh, there was going to be nothing left.
Also, did I make a mistake agreeing to team up with you?
Don't be silly. It was just an insurance policy. Yeah. I just thought that if I lost sight of you at any point, I could blow the whole building and you with it. Oh. It was her policy to be thorough to the end, after all. She laughed in embarrassment, saying out loud, though.
What, don't you think that's overkill?
Faced with Aoko's cruelty, Sojiro forgot about the situation at hand and protested from the bottom of his heart. Stop complaining. At least now we have a way to fight back. She shot back. Alko dashed down the corridor, mumbling things that probably would have sent Sojiro packing if he heard them. The strategy was simple. Alko would use the escape route to the right and avoid the puppet while making her way down to the basement. Upon reaching the central pillar, she would infuse the formula she had prepared with magical energy and escape. Once ignited, it would take about a minute for the chain reaction to spread throughout the whole house of mirrors, and another minute for the building to collapse. She would be cutting it a little close, but because she had committed the maze to memory, she was sure she could make it out on time. Alko assumed that the chain reaction caused by the pillars would clear the barrier that the puppet had placed at the entrance. And even if it was strong enough to withstand the blast, it would not be able to stay standing once the foundation buckled. Sojiro's escape was assured as long as the formula in the basement was activated. Next came the most important part. The automation was at a disadvantage in the obstacle-landed house of mirrors, Layden, and was unable to move at full speed. If it was near the center of the second floor, where the building collapsed, it would be caught up and crushed by it. So the problem was keeping the puppet on the second floor until Alko could make it to the basement. I'm counting on you, Suzuki. I just need you to keep it occupied for 3 minutes. Ideally, he would be able to keep it busy until she could activate the formula. If that failed to work, him luring it down to the first floor would be the next best thing. She understood perfectly well the danger she was putting Sojiro in, but his lucky streak and running speed were nothing to scoff at. As long as he has to do all he oh my god, reading. As long as all he has to do is run, then maybe, just maybe, he can actually pull this off. Alko made her way through the hidden passage of the maze, her hopes pinned on Sojiro. Meanwhile, well out of earshot, Sojiro was readying himself for another desperate chase. He calmed his breathing, his beating heart, using a method of his own making. Trace on. I call it trace on. I don't know why. It just sounds kind of cool. You know? Doesn't it sound kind of cool?
Oh my god.
No, not at all. It doesn't. That makes no sense. I kind of thought it would sound cool. What mattered most was that he remained calm. The plan was simple enough. And Alko's orders were succinct and easy to understand. Keep a distance of around 30 feet and weave through the corridors slowly as you can 3 or 4 times. Count the mirrors as you move to locate the hidden passages. From here, they are on the 6th, 3rd, 7th, and 2nd mirrors counterclockwise. Use those, and you should be relatively safe. It was essentially a looping marathon. As long as Sojiro maintained a distance of the puppet's extended arm, and just enough that she could continue to track him, she could continue chasing him indefinitely. Simple thought. Simple though the task was, Sojiro was putting his life on the line as bait. And then, there was the final order to run as fast as he could to the exit when the building began to sway.
Hmm. This is more than just a little tough.
He nervously stuck his head out from around the corner. He could hear the sound of the music box from the other side of the corridor. First, he had to make eye contact with it, then head through the shortcut on the right and begin their game of tag. He spotted it and braced himself. Closer. Closer. Fearing that her arm could fly at him at any moment, he went over Aoko's instructions in his head.
Wait.
However, he could not quite remember which plane led to the first hidden passage. Or panel. No, pane. The third? Sixth? The ninth? Oh no. He was sure that he was mistaken. He was confident he had memorized moments ago, but his nerves had gotten the best of him, and his head was now spinning. Then, Sojiro realized that the sound of his pursuer was beginning to grow distant. And at an impeccable speed. Oh, I don't like that.
Oh, well, what's it doing now?
The unusual silhouette of the puppet astonished him. Before it had taken the form of a beautiful girl. But now, it made a bizarre transformation and returned to the first floor to pursue her primary target.
Oh. This ain't the plan.
Sojiro was no longer sure what to do. With not even the time to mourn his failure, the puppet had vanished out of sight.
I'll be of help. Just let me go.
Or so he had said, but now he could not follow through.
So, what am I supposed to do now?
Alone, he tilted his head in frustration. He spoke into the darkness as if Aoko would be there to answer him. That very moment, having arrived on the first floor, Aoko quickly understood what had transpired above her. She did not even have to strain her ears to hear the puppet. Even during its heyday, this attraction had never made sounds like the one she heard coming towards her now. It was a sound of despair, as if a horde of monstrous hedgehogs were scraping their way past the mirrors in her direction. Why hedgehogs?
Hedgehog.
A little baby, little hedgehog, little Sonic babies.
Hedgehog.
It's 3 minutes? He couldn't even last 10 seconds. Rather than buying her time, Sojiro had in fact stolen hers. She dreamed of cursing him for failing to fulfill his one job. Multiple simultaneous footsteps. So it switched from bipedal to a D-leg form. The echoes made it sound like the footsteps of dozens of feet. To Aoko, it sounded like a giant six-legged spider tearing its way down the corridor. That is what it is.
Oh.
It was little wonder that it was so much faster than before. Its perception of its surroundings through echolocation was of particular use in the dark. Compared to sight-dependent humans, the automaton was far better equipped to navigate its way through the labyrinth of mirrors. If it could not keep pace earlier, it was because its bipedal mode of movement was not up for the task. But the stability provided by multiple legs gave it speed that far exceeded that of any human. What now? What now? Her thoughts spun out as she tried to come up with Plan B. All she knew for sure was that this was a pivotal moment. If she continued standing still, she had seconds left at most. Oh my god. Even at her current stage, she knew she could easily neutralize the bounded field blocking the entrance without casting a spell. All she had to do was pour a little of her own energy into it. Alko could sprint with all of her might a little more than 3 minutes. The puppet had far more stamina than she did. She could only come up with 3 options. The first was to escape through the exit in front of her. The second was to hide herself somewhere within the far more complicated first floor. And the third was to run to the basement and be stuck like a rat in a trap. Well, that's obvious enough. She made her decision with 0 hesitation. Moving her stiff legs again with determined strength. The oncoming storm was almost upon her. Her resolve firm, she turned and ran, descending into the darkness. No matter what, a finale should be glorious. This would be the Mirror Castle's final scene. 2 humans and a puppet. A young sorceress ran towards the subterranean heart of the castle. While an autonomous antique chased its prey into the depths of a demonic dungeon. A minute later, a faint blue charge would ripple through the castle. This was the main pillar in the deepest depths of the basement. The pillar itself was not there to support the castle's structure, but it would serve nicely as the symbol into which the girl thrust her fist with all of her magical energy. It was the blow that would bring down the castle. She imagined the scene as she threw the punch, a scene that would soon become reality. It was simple ignition magecraft, meant to release the condensing magical energy engraved into the 4 pillars that formed the foundation of the structure. Using electricity as a switch meant virtually instantaneous activation.
Oh. I guess that's that then.
I guess that's the thing. Swift and elegant. A hammer of destruction descended upon the castle of dreams that had stubbornly resisted its fate for 2 years. It was almost a joyous sound. And so the lifeless and abandoned castle of mirrors set the stage of for its finale, for its final and most spectacular performance. Alco's magical energy became an electrical charge that activated the Magecraft formula engraved into the pillar. The chain reaction would lead to the castle's destruction. You served your purpose. But it must have been rough. Looks like you're gonna collapse any time now. The plaza in the center of the basement. Alco tried to steady her breathing while rotating her mage crest at full speed. She weathered her arms in blue light, fully aware that she could no longer activate another formula.
Oh, love that.
That's not spooky at all. Her labored breathing refused to settle. She stood at the center of the basement. Without being spotted even once, she managed to make it all the way to the center pillar. It was a 100-meter dash in 13 seconds flat, undoubtedly a new personal best. She spurred on her weakened heart, knowing full well the fate that awaited her. Can't be helped, but it can't help but follow me. And once down here, there'll be no escape. Should have expected that. It was too much to expect that I could keep up the chase forever. Hindsight was 20/20. The castle was only a minute away from collapsing completely. If they stayed here, they would both be crushed by the rubble. The puppet certainly did not care. With no life of its own, its sole concern was the elimination of its target, Alco Aozaki. Indeed. The enemy had been willing to die from the start. She resented her own lack of resolve. It wasn't like her to tuck tail and run from an opponent that didn't fear death. That's so fun. In slumber I live, in dirt I rot. Today's the day I died and was born. Now come to me. It's always been a suicide mission, huh? Doesn't have enough juice to power the 6-lane form and the fin shots. The curses aren't recharging it fast enough. Such a perpetual motion device was only as good as its ability to regulate its energy consumption. Using so many functions at once meant it was burning through fuel quickly and losing the ability to process the curses that powered it. It was using up all of the functions it had been given to achieve its aim. This was the pride of a tool. If such things could have ego, those endowed with sentience could never hope to understand. A beast born to do nothing but run would burn any human who faced its resolve. It's a waste when you think about it. I thought my sister was the only one capable of something this reckless. I guess I was wrong. But Alco did not intend a sacrifice play here. She respected her adversary now, and she was done regretting her choices. There was no time to waste. This is it. This ends now. Alco had every intention of paying it back double for what it had done to her.
Oh.
The energy Alco had accumulated exploded out of her right leg. She aimed for a single thing, a head-on attack. The enemy's response was a curse to crush her heart. A curse that would rend Alco's heart and destroy itself in the process. As soon as she saw it, Alco kicked the floor as hard as she could. As her long hair swirled through the air, she flipped aside. This lateral move almost sent her tumbling into the ground, but a quick swing of her arm allowed her to regain her balance. A shot grazed her arm, with the curse scorching her left shoulder. She did not flinch. Aoko knew she could hold on as long as she continued to avoid a direct fin shot. Snap! Off balance and in pain, it took her half a second to recover. The moment she raised her head, she deflected the attack with a fistful of magical energy. Here goes! If the puppet had a will of its own, its eyes would have popped right out of its sockets. It would have been floored. Shocked at the strong will that allowed this girl to perform a series of moves like this. Crack! Aoko's response was instantaneous. While her power was nothing sufficient to completely redirect the arm's trajectory, it was just enough to deflect it harmlessly past her hair. It was all a mistake. I should have never been born. Atone for me, atone for me, atone for me. The chant became a curse that robbed Aoko of her vitality. Did it still have something left in the tank, or is it actually indignant? Whatever the reason, Aoko was easily able to resist its weakened defensive maneuver. Glider! I can't yell, but that's the best you get. And her right leg, pulsing with magical energy, shot up into the puppet's chest from below. It was much lighter than Aoko anticipated. Or rather, she felt little resistance. An automaton's weight was determined by its internals, the size of its power source. Ironically, it was the superiority of its music box engine that would prove it to be its downfall. Welcome, my grave. A stuttering curse. Having taken the full brunt of Aoko's kick, the puppet bounced from ceiling to floor, collapsing in a heap. Its internal construction had been warped by the impact, leaving the drum of the music box that powered the puppet warped as well. Take your design flaws up with your maker. A single
Dynamo?
dynamo? A single dynamo would have been all you needed to. Wait, what the? Yeah, did you forget that you're currently, like, in a collapsing building? Part of the ceiling came crashing down in front of Aoko, snapping her back to her senses. Did I just really take her out? She was so stunned by her own victory that she forgot the House of Mirrors had already begun to collapse. I've got to get out of here. There was no time to relish in her victory or pity her opponent. Not unless she wanted to meet the same fate. As the situation stood, she found it hard to imagine getting out alive. Get a move on, Aoko! She slapped herself on the cheeks and took off. This was her bounty for finishing their battle in a matter of seconds. With her breathing labored by all of the excitement, she ran to the exit. The collapse was intensifying by the second. Having lost its support pillars, the castle was buckling under its own weight. Out of my way! Escaping from the basement was proving to be no easy task. While she was taking the shortest route possible through the maze, she was nearly crushed by a falling piece of the ceiling along the way. This was the third, she had to deal with falling rubble along the way. She destroyed the debris on the stairs with magic bullets as she ran. The automaton's jamming had long since worn off. The earlier attack had damaged the vast majority of its functions. Oh, there we go.
Nope.
Her breathing was heavy as she ran. The intensity surrounding her sparked her brain into overdrive. The ceiling seemed to be collapsing in slow motion. For her, a second felt like 5. Her frayed nerves made it hard to read time correctly. As her life seemed to flash before her very eyes, a light at the end of the tunnel. Oh no. There was debris riddled throughout the stairway, forcing her to crawl up it. She emerged from the destroyed basement into the collapsing first floor. That the plaza was still traversable at all was a miracle in itself, and fortunately for her, the crucial part of the exit was still intact. I made it! The corridor to the entrance was still intact. The basement maze only extended as far as the plaza, so the entrance corridor wouldn't collapse. Only the ceiling would cave in, leaving the scaffolding surrounding it intact. She got herself this far by telling herself repeatedly that fate would decide whether or not she reached the plaza, or whether or not her spirit had to stay the night.
Oh my god.
Where this could be her apocrypha. That's not as funny, but what does apocrypha mean, by the way?
Apocrypha?
Yeah. Does it mean anything? Is it like a word?
Apocryphal means I believe like dubious.
Fair. When I first read it, because it was in that fancy font, like I didn't just like write it out, I thought it said apocalypse. So I just read it as Fate Apocalypse for I think probably the through the entire first watch through I had of it. until season 2 came out of it. So me watching all of season 1, I was just like, yeah, Fate Apocalypse. Totally. gamble paid off. It was her lucky day. All she had to do was muster the last of her strength and keep moving forward until... She hesitated for a fraction of a second. Was it naivete? A sense of responsibility? She pushed aside the image that popped into her head and continued running down the corridor. You don't have the luxury of coordinating the timing with each other to pull this off. It's not the greatest plan in the world, but we both need to do our parts and to get to the exit as quickly as possible. That was 5 minutes ago. At the time, Sojiro had nodded with trepidation. Naoko had not bothered to ask herself why. What are you thinking, Aoko? Just focus on running! The corridor was giving out, too. If she were to look back, she was sure she would see the building collapsing in on her. She was also sure she had no time to waste doing this. Her luck was fading as fast as the building's structural integrity. It was a small miracle that she had escaped serious injury up until this point, and she could not afford even the slightest slip-up. An ankle sprain, loss of balance, even a sneeze would be fatal. A simple pat on the back was enough to end it. So naturally... Oh. There it was, clear as day. From the
Detritus.
From the detritus on the stairway, death had arisen to take her down with it. The corpse that had crawled its way up from the depths of hell itself. Hey, that's hell you're walking into. It was still operational. I love how you just hit the button.
What?
I said, hey, that's hell you're walking into, and you didn't say anything, you just hit the button. You just hit the next button. And it was still armed with curses. It had crawled after her, watching as Aoko desperately tried to save herself. I feel like it's always creepier when only one eye is drawn. You know?
About the what?
Instead of when only one eye is drawn.
Oh yeah.
I always think it's creepier. Instead of having like both eyes.
Fair.
Granted, fun fact, you probably know this because it's something that I feel like I shouldn't say most people. Anyways, so the Egyptians, they always had to draw almost every single part of the body when they were doing their hieroglyphics and things like that and their murals, because they thought that if you didn't, you would lose that body part and it wouldn't be able to like follow you into the afterlife. However, they never drew people from the front of the face, because they thought if you looked directly into its eyes, it would steal your soul, which is why they're always from the side, but they all have like all of their body parts in view.
Ah, I see.
So I think that's one of the reasons I find
Fair.
eyes so scary. Eyes are spooky. Eyes are spooky. Especially this puppet's, and it's weird that she looks like Aoko. I don't like it. Anyways, the puppet's arm shot forward. While Aoko did not turn to meet it, she could see its reflection in the mirrors. Oh my god. Il salvato. Extend. This time, she could not dodge it. This was absolutely nothing she could do. The puppet with her face sang. I invite you to die a muddy death. Become as whispering dust. Gouge out your heart. Death be upon you. What? For a moment, she could not believe her eyes. This was the last thing she expected to see.
Don't know when to give up, do you?
A fierce expression adorned the face of the boy who had been waiting in the plaza as he smashed the puppet's outstretched arm. Anger really did not suit him at all. His weapon of choice was a fire extinguisher. He must have searched the maze for something to use as a weapon. No, never mind that. It was too crazy to contemplate, but had he stayed behind for her? Suzuki! Aoko stopped the feat she had sworn to herself that she would never stop moving and extended a hand out to him. That's enough! Leave it! We have to go! Sojiro tossed the fire extinguisher aside and took off running. We don't get to see angry face Sojiro? Sad.
Oof.
Pieces of ceiling continued to collapse like dominoes. They kept moving with dust and dirt following in their wake. Their shadows raced through the collapsing corridor with all their strength. The castle was in the throes of death. With a massive crash and a cloud of dust, the final chapter of the fairy tale that had been Kitsyland came to an abrupt end. Do you know how many years of bad luck they're gonna have from all the mirrors they broke?
Good lord.
This duel, it's a lot. That's a lot of years. Isn't it like 7 years bad luck?
I think so.
If you break a mirror?
IRC.
So just something like that.
Yes.
so it's just that's just how many? I mean, that's a lot of mirrors.
Yes.
That's at least more than 5 mirrors.
Maybe 6.
It could be 6. Can you imagine if it was over 10?
Oh no.
Crazy. This duel to the death was now over. For a moment, amidst their swirling emotions, all past enmity was left behind, and the two collapsed on the lawn and basked in a strange solidarity. The ringing in their ears subsided before long. A tremor of such magnitude seemed impossible in an amusement park like this. Do you think he's gonna start living with them now? Because now he's under attack now. Oh my god, they're gonna get a new roommate. They're gonna be roommates. I'm really pushing hard on this roommate. I want them to be roommates, and I want them to hold hands and be friends and walk to school together.
Fair enough. All right.
Is that all? Is that too much to ask?
All right.
A tremor of such magnitude seemed impossible at an amusement park like this. The tremors. As the sounds of destruction echoed across the park, Aoko addressed the individual at her side. Hey, you alive?
Yeah.
While the clicking of her tongue was adorable, the meaning behind it was anything but.
Nazaki, what happened to that thing?
What do you think? It was crushed to bits. Sojiro sighed, not wholly relieved by her frank response. His reason? Never mind that thing. You should be worrying about yourself. He wasn't out of the woods yet, after all.
Azaki, I'm guessing you were a bit of a bully as a kid.
Maybe. I don't get a kick out of seeing people suffer. Never mind that. Do you know the situation you're in right now? She sat up and smiled. Sojiro hung his head in shame, wondering what kind of tone and expression wondering why her kind tone and expression were so chilling.
Please, accept my sincerest apologies.
Oh no, don't even start. You know what our agreement was, and a deal is a deal. If you held up your end of the bargain, I'd let you go.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm apologizing.
Sojiro made a show of avoiding her eyes. Like a pouting child. Alka was taken aback by this sulky display. Perhaps he was angry at himself rather than her. He was not mad because she would not let him go. He was mad that he had not done his part. Alko sighed for what seemed like the millionth time that day. She could not figure out what surprised her more, his unconditional kindness or her naive approval of it. So, are you ready?
Of course not. But a promise is a promise. In the end, I failed to do my part.
It was certainly the case that he'd failed to do any of the things she had expected of him. But not that. But just then, she glanced back at the collapsing house of mirrors. What had he done after failing so spectacularly? He had searched for the extinguisher so he could use it as a weapon, and waited patiently in the plaza as the maze collapsed all around him, because he thought it was wrong of him to leave alone. It was a foolish choice, and the exact opposite of her choice to run towards the exit without hesitation. I suppose I'll take it. She was satisfied, even as she was shocked at how naive she was being. It was true that he had saved her. She smiled inwardly, admiring, if only for a moment, the bravery he continued to show in the face of such extreme circumstances. You may have blown your chance, but you did make up for it in the after the fact. I'll keep my promise. With a nod, she pulled herself to her feet. But you'll pay back this favor. Someday. The girl tried to keep a straight face as she offered a hand to the boy still lying on the ground. You managed to help me out in the end. So because of that, I'll let you off the hook. For tonight. She bashfully averted her gaze. Though her profile appeared different than it had in the past, it was clearly still the face of the vibrant girl he met the day he first arrived in town. What are you staring at? As if she had felt his eyes on her, she shot him a frowning glare.
Sorry. It's just that, as crazy as it is to say aloud, you really are a fair person, Alzaki.
He took her outstretched hand. Feeling his weight as she pulled him up, she could not help but think that he was about the last person she wanted to hear that from.
By the way, you said you'd let me off the hook for tonight. What about tomorrow?
Well, we'll just have to see. She shrugged her shoulders as if she was not sure herself. The response was so unlike her that it made Sojiro smile. Was it the solidarity of having escaped death together? Or their fleeting camaraderie that made him feel so? That made him do so? It might have been for this night only, but the air between them was kind and gentle. A lot had transpired, but the midwinter nightmare had come to an end. The pair had overcome many trials and tribulations, and could now leave the mirror realm in their wake. But before that, how selfish of you. And who, may I ask, said you could decide that, Aoko? I'm just assuming that it's is it Alice?
I think that's Alice, yeah.
Yeah, okay. It was the voice of a beautiful singing bird and a merciless machine, all rolled into one. Alice. Her voice quivered as she spoke that name. Oh, fun. The lady in black made her presence known. The night was not yet over. Her name was Alice Kuanji, which I don't know why you need to say that, because we know what her name is. These games confuse me, and sometimes how many times they need to, like, remind us what the characters' names are. See, she was a witch whose name struck fear into the heart of Aoko, an avatar of the night who would allow no witnesses. Oh. I guess this is where we can stop.
Boy.
So I guess now Alice is gonna try and kill him?
Oh boy, love that.
It is so cool. Okay, I have a theory.
Yeah.
Alright? Do you remember that one lady who scared Sojiro, like, really bad?
Yeah.
You know? I have a thought that maybe that's Aoko's sister.
Oh?
And she's the one sending
The automatons?
The automatons. Because, like, it's like, okay, that person has to be the one sending the automatons because he mentioned that he thought he saw her the previous night, remember? So, like, I feel like she's the one sending the automatons, but I'm like, she's wearing glasses, and she's got a similar hair color. So what if she's Aoko's older sister?
Oh god.
Because she obviously looks older.
True.
Than Aoko. And we don't know by how many years their age difference is. We just know that she has an older sister. And Aoko is in high school, and this woman looks like she's at least 20.
Right.
So I think that might be her sister.
For sure.
And I'm so terrified to see Alice attempt to murder the boy. I'm so sad. Don't hurt the boy. That's gonna suck. Oh. Anyways, say goodbye to the recording.
Later, gamers.